Hi, it's Rick Sussinghouse for another episode of Perform for Success. And many of you know that my background was in athletics, and especially with golf as a player and then as a coach. And when I have coached golf for several years, performance was very easy to measure, correct? By score, right? You shoot a low score, that's good, right? Shoot a high score, that's bad. And we can certainly measure that as we go from round to round, tournament to tournament. And I believe that in the business world, there are also similar indicators, right? How many sales did I close? What's my revenue? Those would be definitely measurable in a way. How do we keep score in the business world too? But there's then subsets of the performance, which are also somewhat easy to measure, okay? For instance, in golf, you know, how straight a golf ball went, how many putts it took to get into the hole, how far the ball went. There's these subsets of performance that as coaches, we're trying to develop all these areas to help somebody shoot a lower score, right? So that's still physical in nature, isn't it? It's still being able to now hit a golf ball in the proper direction, fewest amount of strokes as possible. And then we look at those subsets of performance. And I've talked in previous episodes about goal achievement and stuff like that, is we do have to break down the big goal into performance goals and then into process goals. Now, where am I going with all this? Well, for many, many, many years, golf instruction, for instance, was based on a very cause and effect equation, very basic one, right? So for instance, if the ball went to the right of your target, you were either aimed there or your club face was pointed there at impact. Seems pretty obvious, right? Now, the problem with this simple equation is that it never took into account someone's state. So let me explain here, okay? So whether it is a golfer or a sales professional, there is always that score to keep, correct? So if a sales professional didn't meet a sales quota, for instance, they are asked to look for more leads, make more sales calls, and then guess what? That will solve the shortage of sales, right? So it's a very cause and effect relationship. Now on paper, that makes complete sense. However, we all know that certain business professionals close a higher percentage of calls than others. Same amount of calls, okay, same amount of leads, but they're closing more. So you go, there's got to be something a little bit deeper than just making the phone call, just having that behavior. So it is not always about just doing more, but about what you are doing during that sales call, for instance. So the old equation was behavior equals results, right? What actions did I take? What's the results I got? Again, seems pretty basic. But if you don't like your results, then you just change your behavior, right? So for some people, it's make more phone calls. I'm going to do more of it. But they're probably doing it poorly in the first place, and they're not really looking at what led to that behavior. So sorry, that doesn't work anymore. There is a new equation that actually takes into account what caused the behavior in the first place. Now, this has to do with focus and thinking and emotions. And again, that's where my expertise comes in, is it's easy on paper to tell somebody what went wrong and their results are not good enough. But what led to those behaviors is a little bit of a deeper story. So let me explain. Let's say we all have to make the same exact sales call. We all possess the same education and experience to get the job done. However, each of us will show up differently to that call. We will focus on different meanings of what this call represents. Now, these thoughts create an emotional response. Now, that emotion will have a direct effect on your behavior. So think about it. Some people actually look forward to the opportunity of a sales call, while others dread it. Now, that attitude will determine your ability to communicate and your ability to connect with that potential client, right? Because your attitude is going to affect communication style, how you develop rapport, how you get the message across, how you listen. So your attitude is going to create an effect on your behavior. So this is where state comes in. How are you showing up before the event and during the event? And what influences our state? There's many, many, many things. And I'm just going to cover a few of those today. Is think about it. Your state, mental, emotional, physical state, how you're showing up is affected by many things. One of the first things which I teach with everyone is just your own physical energy. what are you bringing to the table energy-wise is going to affect, again, how our behavior works. So when we look at physical energy, we look at things like how much sleep you had last night, what did you eat, are you hydrated, were you able to do some exercise, or get the motor running, right? So we want to know what motor you're running. Okay, so that's number one. Another thing that affects your state is your mental intention. Are you clear on what you want from the event in the first place? Sometimes we just go through life as what we call reactionary mode and just say, well, I'll be in a good mood. Depends on what happens. Instead of saying, hey, this event that's occurring, that's going to occur, what's my intention with that? Am I clear on what I want that end result to be? Will help create a proper focus going into that event. Next thing that affects your state is your emotions, right? Are you, for instance, still frustrated because somebody cut you off in traffic an hour earlier? Well, that emotion, that frustration is now going to affect your behavior. It's going to affect your communication style, how you show up to other people. Or are you coming off a successful event? You just closed a sale. Well, now that momentum is positively pushing you forward. So emotions become big drivers as far as how we show up and what our behavior is. So let's check our emotions. Next thing is really the association we have with an event in the first place. Once you know that a certain event will occur, what is your attitude about it? Now, I know attitude's a kind of a big word where it's been thrown around in self-help and personal development, and you just have a great attitude. Okay, that's great advice, but it's that, again, that peel it back one more layer, it's what you associate with the event in the first place, how you're going to define it, what's the meaning you're going to put to it. Past, we have a lot of past memories maybe that are related to that event. And we have to deal with that. We have to be very clear on what are we associating with this future event. Is it serving us or not? So as you can hear, there are many factors that determine how you think and feel during your day. So one of my roles as a performance coach is to help clients train their state through kind of an integrated approach of mental, physical, and emotional health that will help you show up more consistently in a peak performance state, right? How are you showing up is going to be vital in how you behave, and the actions that are going to come from that are going to lead then to your results. So let's not just think, I'll just change my behavior leads to results. There's a reason you're probably not behaving how you want to in the first place, and it's, again, how you're thinking, your energy level, your emotional state. We got to look at those a little bit more. We got to train those. We got to practice those. We got to develop routines around those. So even though we have to take on many challenges and responsibilities throughout the day, you can certainly improve your performance in those events through better state management. So start thinking about what is peak performance for you in your life. What would that mean? Some people, it's different than others. Some people are only concerned with peak performance in some of their roles, career. Some of it's just with being a great parent. Now I like to look at it like, well, I want all my roles. I want to be peak performance in all my roles through life to get the most out of it, right? And to be able to give more back. So what is peak performance for you? What state would serve you throughout the day? Again, state, pretty general term, but mental, emotional, physical state, how should you show up? I want to show up with energy. I want to show up with excitement, curiosity. Those are things that we can now, in a way, pre-program before we go into it. So what can you do to boost your energy? What self-care practices can you begin to change and have that high sustainable energy throughout the day? You're going to start looking at your other behaviors that lead to other behaviors, if that makes sense. So if I'm already doing the proper things with self-care and getting healthier, that makes it easier for me to make that sales call, for me to do a sales call not only 8 o'clock in the morning, but 5 o'clock in the evening, because the healthcare behaviors that I have now are going to help sustain that energy throughout the day. The next thing, which is really, really important, is, again, begin today by creating an intention for a future event. Think about what's the best possible outcome that's under my control. How can I show up? What do I want to get from this event? What do I want to give to this event? How do you intend to show up? And no matter the environment, no matter who's there, no matter what happens, that's, we don't want to get in reactionary mode. We want to be in a responding mode. I intend to respond in such a way. What feelings and emotions will you bring to the event, right? A lot with athletes, it's confidence. I want to be confident, right? Other people that need to customer service, they need to be very understanding and listen, and they empathetic sometimes. And, so think about how the feelings and emotions you need to have for that role. So your state comes down to how you first consciously take care of your physical, mental, and emotional pillars, as I call them. Now, there are many other factors that are more unconscious, like your belief systems, your values, and your habits. And I'll dive into those in a future episode. But let's start today with areas that do make a big difference and that are under your control. So let's start to change your state, and then you can change your performance. Thank you again for listening and taking the time. I want to share this and get this out there. So if you would share this with coworkers and friends who would also get value from this, I'd much appreciate that. And so you can go to performforsuccess.com/iTunes to subscribe and kind of share this. And if you have any questions for me, or if you have any, comments or anything that I want to do on a future episode, please, you can reach me, rick@performforsuccess.com. So remember, we're performing every day, aren't we? So let's perform for success.